Hi, everyone. Back for more yapping. Just a little more yapping before the year ends. I told myself that I was going to like take a pause. I also don't expect myself to do these videos in a way where I follow like a very specific schedule. It's more so based off of the energy that I feel like is the most conducive with where we are as a collective, where I am in my introspection. I told myself if I was called to do a little something, something, then I was called to do a little something, something. And the reason why I'm making this video at this point is because, it's the holiday season. Um, and that comes with a lot of themes and conversations surrounding community and access and family. And as a fully autonomous adult, there are a lot of other reasons why I don't participate in a lot of the things that go on at this point of the year, just in regards to like my values and morals as a human being. um, but without fail, every now and then my inner child likes to replay the tapes. I be hearing Mariah Carey hit that high note in my subconscious. I'd be hearing the jingles of the bells and all of that stuff. And it does remind me a lot of my childhood, ultimately, especially as somebody who's grown up in this country. Big themes that have been coming up for me have been surrounding the concept of being the black sheep. And how for a lot of us who don't necessarily have the best relationship either with our families or are having to focus more on our survival than the leisure of being amidst community, the leisure of celebrating, decorating, all this stuff. For a lot of people, this is the point where they have to overextend themselves the most. Especially at a time, if you live in a cold climate where the earth is literally demanding for us to rest and to stop. Capitalism waits for no one. So a lot of people are having to push really hard to survive this time of the year. And that could come with a lot of burnout. That can come with, depression. And so, yeah, it's a very heavy transition for a lot of people. But returning to the conversation about being a black sheep during this time of the year, um, usually this point of the year is the most argumentative for me, or used to be a time where a lot of masking needed to take place for me to be able to get through the performance of community and connection and family that I was being pressured to, stick it out for. As I have continued to choose to live a life that doesn't require me to mask, doesn't require me to be somebody that I'm not, that means spending a lot less time in traditional spaces that other people get to experience. I spend a lot of my holidays alone, if not with my friends here and there, but this time of the year I spend in a lot of introspection, because that's been the safest space for me. But there are parts of me that yearn for the feeling of being held and feeling close to people, and making memories with people that everyone else gets to experience. But I reserve that desire and that dream for a time in my life when I have access to more, and can form those traditions and rituals for myself and with the people that I love. But at this stage of my life, I'm kind of in a limbo. That can come with a lot of, mourning the illusion of closeness that came with being someone that you're not, even if it was for just a holiday. You know what I mean? Um, the conditional acceptance that came from putting on the costume of the most socially acceptable version of yourself, even though it was never ever going to be exactly what people wanted from you. um, Doing your best to blend in. And it's easy to romanticize those things, but I remember those times I was miserable. Like, I was literally miserable. All of those exchanges, all of those interactions in reality felt very hollow. Like, I never felt like I was part of anything. um, I felt like I was observing everybody else experiencing family in a way that I will never have access to, even if I am in the same room as these people. Um, and the reason I bring this up is because I know there are a lot of people who have been the black sheep in their families and in their communities, and this time of year is very hard for them. Um, this time of year can feel like your body remembers to yearn for that closeness, but either that closeness comes at a sacrifice of your comfort and safety and autonomy, or you don't get to experience any degree of closeness and you pretty much are by yourself. I just wanted to make a video kind of like holding space for the black sheep and just talking through what it feels like to be that person. Black sheep are typically people in their families or in their communities that bring the most uproar with their presence, not because they're doing anything that is problematic or harmful, but just because the way that they exist challenges the norms that have been the foundation of the families that they have found themselves in. Black sheep will typically be the ones who ask the questions, you know, who desire explanation for why we are expected to act a certain way, be a certain way, live a certain way. And oftentimes we'll experience rejection as a result of being that person who sheds light to the ways that people are denying their own authenticity. Black sheep will typically trigger those around them and force them to look in the mirror and face their shame, their insecurities, their fears. The people who go up against a black sheep typically are people who do not want to embrace an alternative lifestyle in which they do not have to perform to be accepted. As a queer person, as a visibly queer person, you know, for example, I know that when I walk into the space of my family members or whatever, people within our community, I challenge a lot of people's understandings of sexuality, of gender expectations. Growing up, I was always, you know, especially as somebody who's perceived as a woman, I've always challenged the ways that women are expected to show up in spaces. And so when I would have these moments where people were trying to project onto me this, oh, why don't you shave? Why don't you have a boyfriend? Why don't you have these things? And trying to make me feel ashamed about it, I would be like, well, why can't I be seen as valuable outside of these things? Why do I need to participate in this in order to be accepted, in order to be loved? Or even growing up in a conservative space where like being queer is not accepted because people have never been allowed to explore their desires in the way that I've demanded I'm allowed to explore my desires. There's a lot of fear associated with it. And so they see me indulging in something that they don't understand. And it's easy to just demonize those things in order to escape any conversation in which you question your own sexuality. You know, if you tell yourself, oh, this is just bad, then it's easier for you to relinquish yourself from any conversations in your own body, in your own spirit about what your sexuality is, you know, even outside of queerness, but like, what does it mean to healthily connect? What does it mean to healthily express your desires and needs and to pursue relationships that actually align with who you are inside? What does all that mean, you know? And so it's so much deeper than just, you know, you being different. Because a lot of these people also refuse to see the ways that you are actually similar to them, you know? They will try to put you in this other category because to see themselves as similar to you is to give themselves permission to exist as freely as you. And they have to ask themselves why they've denied themselves that permission to live as freely as you. For a lot of black sheep, Instead of these people confronting these conversations and exploring that within their own lives, they become the punching bag. You know, I know that black sheep are strong. I know that we are such strong people, and through that rejection, through that isolation, we relearn our lives and our power. Because when you are discarded by these communities, you have to build your life from scratch, and you get to make decisions that actually are in alignment with you, that don't have to be vetted through the very people who would want you to conform in the first place. So I feel like a lot of black sheep get to this point where they're like, the world is my oyster. I already got thrown out. You know what I mean? Y'all already don't call me back, right? So now I can make decisions for myself in the privacy of my own mind and spirit and soul. It's difficult if you're a black sheep who's still in the environments that make you feel alienated every day, and trying to hold on to that sense of self while in proximity to these people. So that's a whole different set of challenges. But regardless, you still have the platform to learn how to live in a different way that actually holds space for the entirety of who you are. And so I wanted to bring it back to this idea of reminding the black sheep to continue dreaming, continue building. When you are in environments that are constantly going up against who you know yourself to be, you spend so much time arguing and fighting for your visibility, fighting for your safety and well-being, that you don't get the chance to actually live out your experience. What's really unfortunate is that beyond just these people's projections of negativity onto the ways that you show up in the world, they are actually robbing you of precious time, because you're spending so much of your time having to argue with people who are dedicated to misunderstanding you on why you have value. If they didn't get it the first time and didn't get it the second time or the third time, it's very clear that those people are never going to get it until they can see themselves in your shoes. And if these are people who are denying their truest self every single day, waking up and choosing to be a different person than who they actually are, they are never going to get to that point. And so I want to encourage us to not spend our entire lives trying to convince people who need to figure out for themselves how painful it is to be somebody that you're not. Because I always told myself that it would be more painful for me to pretend than to be rejected. I believe that rejection is protection. As painful as it can be, it is an act of self-love to acknowledge that the conditional love that you are being given is nowhere close to the love that you deserve. To be able to look at these spaces and look at these people and be like, you are not capable of tending to my spirit, my heart, in a way that is acceptable to me. And so I will patiently wait if it means that I will be able to find people who do, and that is where chosen family come in. And, you know, personally, every day I think myself, and even when I have these feelings of heaviness where I'm like grieving the ease that comes from having everything just set up for you, you know, having a family that accepts you, having you know, access to work and all of these things, and just having society welcome you with open arms. Sometimes I mourn that experience for myself. But the mourning comes from a place where it's like, what did I do to deserve this level of alienation? Nothing. Nothing. I'm only going through this because of how y'all perceive me. Not because of the contents of my character, not because of my worth, but literally because y'all have chosen to alienate people like me. It's been really healing for me, though, to get on the other side of some of the darkest days in this feeling that I've described to you, and to find myself in relationships, in experiences, showing up even in the way that I present. Sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm just like, I wouldn't want to look any other way. And I was always taught that because I don't mimic the beauty standard, that I wasn't beautiful, you know? But even though I was taught that, every day I look in the mirror and I'm so affirmed by my dedication to myself. Like, I'm so affirmed by the outfits that I pick every day. You know what I mean? I'm affirmed by my body modifications. I'm affirmed by my gender fluidity. And it's like these people will try to convince you that the things that you love the most about yourself are a problem or an issue. I wanted to just remind y'all that even in that grief, to wait it out, to always wait it out. I think the hardest thing for me about being rejected by, people you're taught are supposed to be the people who love you for the rest of your life is like, I feared that I would never experience love in my life, or like that I was never good enough to experience love, or that I would always have to be alone. And none of that is true. It's very easy to like give up on yourself in your dreams when you fear rejection all the time because you were rejected by people who don't understand you. But remember, it's because those were the people who surrounded you the most, not because that was the entirety of the world, And so when you shed those environments that do not resonate, that do not breathe life into you, and you step into ones that do, you'd be surprised that the world that you had been praying for, the acceptance that you had been praying for, the version of yourself that you wanted to be, was right in front of you the entire time. You will become more comfortable with yourself and who you genuinely are when you continue to be surrounded by things that affirm your existence. And so I wanted to make this video so that other Black sheep do not give up on dreaming. Do not give up on connecting, give up on feeling held, give up on love. It's very easy for us to get settled into this continuous cycle of rejection and just being like, well, I guess it's just me. I guess it's just me. And it's an amazing thing to accept, solitude and accept you as you are. But, you don't have to deny that love is what you want, or like community is what you want. And I feel like for a lot of us, we get so used to being on the outskirts that we give up our desire to be held, because so many people taught us that we were not worthy of being held. And to survive, to protect our sanity, right, we make ourselves emotionally unavailable to what we truly want. I want to remind you that there's a way to desire these things and still feel powerful and still feel strong. I know for a lot of us, it can feel like we're setting ourselves up for disappointment, especially when the people closest to you, whether that be your parents, your family members, your friends, or whatever, they were supposed to love you according to society. And it's like, if those people don't do that, or refuse to, or can't, then what makes me think that other people will be able to? Or what makes me think that I get a taste and the rug isn't pulled from under me? And those fears can really hold us back. You are setting yourself up to potentially miss out on things that could have been for you that you just did not have the confidence to go after. And so, as the holiday season finds us, and as these, feelings and memories come back, I just really wanted to extend my love to all the Black sheep everywhere, and to let you know that I understand and I see you and I resonate, and it's okay to grieve. It's okay to reflect on the times that you deserve to be cared for and people did not live up to that role in your life. It's okay to feel disappointed. It's okay to see other people who are experiencing that level of support and to feel hurt by it. At the very least, as you move through those emotions, as you move through that experience, please be gentle with yourself and remind yourself that it is not because of who you are that you are not deserving of these things. Continue to be who you are. Just because you were surrounded by people who didn't understand you doesn't mean that you are too complex. Doesn't mean that you are doing existing wrong. Doesn't mean that you are unlovable. Doesn't mean that you need to change in order to receive that support. You don't. And just really pour into yourself in the way that you wish other people would. And my hope is that this is just a moment in time. This will be a memory of your past in which, you may have had to face this holiday season alone, but next year, in a few years, or in a few weeks, who knows, you find the people who make this time all the more easier to move through. And I hope that you find those people by not compromising a single aspect of who you are. And I say that because you deserve nothing less than that. You deserve people who actually understand you. Because how can we truly get our needs met by people who don't understand us? How can we truly feel loved by people who don't understand us? So sometimes you have to release this idea that those people are capable of doing that. Because in order to truly love you in a way that is fulfilling, they would need to actually get to know you. Get to know the real you. The things that make you happy, the things that make you sad. They'd have to know your boundaries. They'd have to respect your boundaries. And love in which none of that is happening is not love. It's just not. So remind yourself of that and be proud of yourself for not settling for less. Continue powering through all of this emotion, and I will see you on the other side of it all. And if you are looking for a journal prompt today, write about all of the things that make you different and why that makes you dope as fuck. I hope y'all have a gentle winter transition. We will get through this, and we're gonna blink and it's gonna be spring, baby. So, bye.